It started with nothing, literally nothing. A normal afternoon, quiet street, the kind of day where nothing stands out and everything feels routine. I was outside with my daughter, just cleaning up the front yard, trimming a few plants, keeping things tidy. No noise, no mess, nothing that could reasonably cause an issue. But in our neighborhood, reasonable didn't always matter, because Karen was watching. She always was. Arms crossed, standing just far enough away to observe but close enough to make it known. At first I ignored her. That had become the easiest way to deal with her constant need to find problems where none existed. But this time, she didn't stay quiet. She walked over, slow and deliberate, already convinced she had something to say. "You're violating community standards," she said, without even a greeting. I paused, looking at her, genuinely confused. "How?" I asked. She gestured vaguely toward the yard. "This setup," she said. "It's not approved." I looked around, plants, tools neatly arranged, everything within normal limits. "There's nothing wrong here," I replied calmly. But Karen shook her head. "I've warned you before," she continued. "If you don't fix this, I'll have to call authorities." The word hung there, authorities, said like it carried weight, like it would end the conversation in her favor. But something about it felt off. Not threatening, just empty. "Call whoever you think you need to," I said, keeping my tone steady. That wasn't the reaction she expected. You could see it in the slight pause, the hesitation that broke her rhythm for just a second. But she recovered quickly. "Fine," she said, pulling out her phone. "Don't say I didn't warn you." And just like that, she made the call. I went back to what I was doing. Not because I didn't care, but because there was nothing to fix. The yard was fine. The situation was fine. The only thing out of place was the accusation itself. About 20 minutes later, a patrol vehicle pulled up. Calm, routine, the kind of arrival that doesn't bring chaos but clarity. The officer stepped out, looked around, then approached. "We received a report," he said. I nodded. "From her?" I replied, gesturing toward Karen, who now stood a little straighter, a little more confident, like this was the moment everything would turn in her favor. The officer took a moment, scanning the yard, taking in the scene, clean, organized, normal. "Can you explain the issue?" he asked. Karen stepped forward immediately. "They're not following HOA guidelines," she said, her voice firm. "This needs to be addressed." There was a pause. Not long, but enough. The officer looked at her, then back at me, then again at the yard. And then he said something that shifted everything. "HOA guidelines aren't enforced by us," he said calmly. The confidence drained from Karen's face almost instantly. "But it's a violation," she insisted. The officer shook his head slightly. "That's not a matter for law enforcement," he replied. "There's no legal issue here." The words landed differently than anything else that had been said. Not loud, not aggressive, just final. Around us, a couple of neighbors had stepped outside, watching quietly. The situation Karen had tried to escalate was unraveling in real time. "So you're not going to do anything?" she asked, her voice now edged with frustration. "There's nothing to act on," the officer said. And that was it. The conversation ended as simply as it had begun. The officer gave me a small nod, then returned to his vehicle. The car pulled away. The street went quiet again. But something had changed. Karen stood there for a moment like she was trying to process what had just happened. The authority she expected to back her up had done the opposite. Not by arguing, but by clarifying reality. She turned and walked away without another word. No follow-up. No second attempt. Just silence. Over the next few days, things felt different. Not dramatically, but noticeably. The tension that had been building quietly in the background was gone. The constant watching, the comments, the pressure, it all faded. And as I stood there a few evenings later, finishing up the same simple yard work, I realized something important. Karen thought she could create a problem out of nothing. But what she actually did was reveal exactly how little there was to begin with. And sometimes that's all it takes. One moment. One clear response. to remind everyone what's real and what isn't.